Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People, where you'll hear stories about people who think they can do no wrong and that they're more deserving than others. Like this person right here who complains, "Last night, our family went out to Cece's Pizza. As a military spouse, I asked if they gave military discounts. The cashier responded, 'We give free drink to active duty and retired.' I said, 'What about spouse of deployed members?' The rude cashier then said, 'Man is issued a sea bag, not a spouse.' Of course, my face changed and I said, 'I'm gonna have to call corporate.' And he said, 'Go ahead, but I'm the district manager so nothing will change. If you wish, we can sit down and talk.' Thankfully, my kids and father-in-law was with me, and it was a celebration for my soon-to-be 10-year-old, or I would have left. I don't care about the free drink. I care that this man feels that only the service member serves, and openly gives such disrespect to a military spouse. Please share." And of course, she leaves feeling irritated. The audacity of this person. You're getting a 5-person buffet at $28 and you still want a discount off that. Okay, one more. So this person posted on Facebook, "I just heard a girl at Walmart say, 'My husband is a private first class for the US Army. Watch who you're disrespecting.' And I promise you, her tone of voice and body language she showed was 100% serious. Where do these people come from? I'm pissing myself laughing." My friends, if you think those people are entitled, wait until you hear the stories in today's episode. So we'll start off with a Karen in McDonald's. The second and third stories are military wives pulling rank on people. Oof. And we'll finish up with a story where OP talks about his church. So my friends, buckle up, grab a drink, and try not to choke while listening to these ridiculous and hilarious stories. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe, and my email is in the description box below if you want to share your crazy stories. Let's dive in. Okay, so a little backstory. I used to work at McDonald's when I was a teenager, and I'm also deaf, but I read lips. I developed bacterial meningitis and became fully deaf at the age of 12. I can still speak though, since I learned to speak before I became deaf, and most of the customers I got were very understanding. Except for one. So, I was working front counter that day, as I usually do, so I was basically in charge of inside customers. This was the easiest position for me, as I could see the customers and read their lips. A middle-aged lady and her 9 or 10-year-old son walk in, and I say, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's." I said this while signing it at the same time. Now, she doesn't look up and is still texting on her phone, so I can't see her lips, and I can't understand what she's saying. So I explain, "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm deaf, but I read lips. Can you look up for me?" She then rolls her eyes, looks around, and I clearly sees that she says, "Why would they let an idiot work the front counter?" Now, I'm appalled by her behavior, but I just try to pretend that I didn't see it. I smile and say, "What can I get started for you today?" She starts to patronize me by speaking very slowly, which, fun fact, it actually makes it 1,000 times harder to understand what you're actually saying. Karen says, "I want a Diet Coke." I asked if that's all, and she says, "And a Happy Meal toy." Now, all of our drinks are $1 no matter what size, but you have to pay for a Happy Meal toy. We don't just give them out for free. I ring her up and she's shocked. She demands to know why I'm discriminating against her son and forcing them to pay for a Happy Meal toy, as they're usually free. Now, I really don't want to cause any trouble, and I wish I could say that I told her where she could shove it, but I ended up just giving her the toy for free. I thought I had avoided conflict, but boy, oh boy was I wrong. I told her the total was $1.06, and after she paid, I handed her a large cup and motioned for the guy behind her to move forward. She waves a hand in my face and points to the drink cup and says, "You never got me my drink." Now, I just thought she didn't see the machines behind her, so I pointed to a drink machine and said, "Oh, there's a drink station behind you where you can fill up your drink." And I kid you not, she word for word said, "That's your job. Do I look like I work for McDonald's?" My jaw hit the floor. I had never had somebody be so rude to me in my entire life. I ended up telling her that when you come inside, you fill up your own drinks, as the machines have been moved to where customers sit. She kept on pushing at me, and I ended up just using our drive-thru drink machine to give her the Diet Coke. I can see her son making fun of me to his mom by pretending to sign and just in general being a dumb kid. His mom didn't punish him or tell him off, but instead, she encouraged him and starts to make fun of me with him. I went to the back and ended up bawling my eyes out. I felt incredibly embarrassed, and I felt like I had made a fool of myself by having a disability. I turned in my 2 weeks notice about a week later and haven't worked in fast food since. To everyone reading this, please be kind to people, especially your fast food workers. It's a tough job even if you don't have a disability. And if you see people who have disabilities working and are trying to make a living, please be patient and help us out by just letting us do our thing and make us feel welcome. Thank you. Guys, it sucks that OP has to remind everybody of that because there's so many despicable humans in this world. It's so unfortunate that her kid's gonna probably grow up to be exactly like her too. That was the perfect time to educate your kid that making fun of others is not right, and Karen fully embraces what he did and taught him that it's funny to mock others. Great, you win the Mom of the Year award, Karen. Absolutely disgusting behavior. So this story happened many years ago. While we were in the military, we moved frequently, and at one base in particular, we lived in condo-style houses. It's a row of houses all connected to each other. Now, I mention this type of house because it shows how close we were to our neighbors. We did have our own driveways, but they were for single cars, and we were right next to our neighbors. The base was in a warm location, where we should have had air conditioning, but we did not. The reason I mention this is because I'd leave my front door open and just have the screen door closed, so we can get crosswind to cool the house. Now, this should not have been a big deal, right? But wrong. Our neighbors that were connected to our left liked to come over and borrow things. Our entitled neighbor would come over, and at the beginning, she would knock and then she would ask for things such as a cup of milk or sugar. Then as time progressed, she would knock and then immediately open the screen door and then walk in and ask for stuff. To be honest, that didn't really bother me too bad because it wasn't too frequent. And then all of a sudden, it changed. She stopped knocking altogether and began just walking in. I'd be doing something, and all of a sudden, I would hear rummaging, and lo and behold, it's her. In my house. Now, I did say something, but I kept it light in hopes that it would work. I knew we were going to be neighbors for a while, and it could be bad to have a bad relationship between neighbors. And then she became pregnant, and her entitlement all of a sudden knew no bounds. Not only would she walk into my house, she would go into my fridge or freezer and grab whatever she wanted. This one time, I was making dinner, and she came over because she could smell the cooking, and she grabbed a plate and served herself. Now, I was in the shower at the time, and when I came out and saw her sitting on my table eating, I said something to the effect of, "I'm making that for my husband, that's not for you." I will never forget what she said. She responded that she's only taking a little. There's gonna be plenty left for him, so I need to calm down. And that was it. I was mad. After that, I tried locking my screen door, but the cheap lock wouldn't hold, and she was able to pull the door open and eventually snap the lock off. I finally said screw it and started to shut my actual door, which sucked because it was hot and there was no AC. But it was better than dealing with her every day. Now, I thought that would work, but then she started to go through our back door and coming through our screen door. Oh, and did I mention that her husband is 3 ranks higher than mine, and she was seriously taking from us when they could afford way more? She felt that since her husband was a higher rank than mine, that she could order us to do things as well. She wanted my husband to come kill bugs when her husband wasn't home, and asked me to do things that she could have easily done for herself, like go grocery shopping or go pick up some food for her. The final straw was when she woke me up at 2 a.m., panicking, saying the words, "so cold," and mumbling. I seriously thought something was wrong with her newborn. I got up, woke my husband up, and let him know, and we both ran to her house, and I do mean we ran. I get to her house, and she's laying on the couch. She wasn't feeling good, and then asked me to get a blanket from her upstairs closet. I finally lost it on her. I told her I thought something was wrong with her baby. I was over it. I told her she's not allowed to walk into our house without permission, and she's not allowed to ask my husband for anything anymore, since she has no control over him. She just looked at me and said something about since I'm here, can't I get the blanket, and that I'm being a horrible neighbor. I walked out of the house, went home, and went to bed. Moving forward, our relationship clearly suffered. She scowled at me every time she saw me, and I also heard from the other neighbors that she talked about me and my husband. Her husband got orders and they finally moved. I think OP is way too nice. I would have never let anybody just walk into my house and do whatever they want, guys. Especially not a next door neighbor. That entitlement is absolutely crazy. Like, if the front door's locked and closed, and you're coming through my back door, I think I might have to judo chop you in the neck. Or something, I don't know. So, I worked for military law enforcement in a former life. It's a busy day on a larger base. I pulled a woman over for running a very solid red light. She almost caused a multiple vehicle accident, which forced several cars to swerve out of the way. We always had to call up info and wait for a response prior to approaching their car. Sometimes, if a dispatcher was slow or it was a busy day, you could sit for 5 minutes before getting that response. I finally walked up to her car after sitting for several minutes. I introduced myself and said, I need your license, registration, insurance, and ID card, which is needed for base access. She says, "Why did you pull me over?" This is harassment. So long story short, she refused to hand over her documentation. This went on a few more tries, with me asking and her yelling. Finally, she angrily and forcefully handed over the documents to me. I already knew where this was going. She says, "Do you know who I am? Who my husband is? Once you find out, you'll be sorry." I told her, "No ma'am, I don't know who your husband is." And her, with a calm sense of victory, said, "He's captain of so-and-so unit." I told her, "Well, I'm very sorry for this, but you clearly did run a red light. I need to issue a ticket." Now, we have this thing called a blotter. It's a report that goes to the commanding general of every negative thing that happened, and he reviews it with those unit commanders. Usually, it's a bad day for you if you're on it. It makes the unit look bad, blah blah blah. So she picks up her phone and calls up her husband and says, "Honey, some cop just pulled me over for nothing. I want you to tell him that he can't issue this ticket to me." She hands her phone to me and I give her back her documents. I said, "Captain, this is so-and-so. Your wife ran a red light at X and X intersection, almost causing an accident. If she doesn't comply, she's about to be apprehended for obstruction, the vehicle's gonna be towed, and your name will end up on the blotter." Now let's be real. There's no way she was about to be apprehended for just yelling at me and refusing to hand me those documents for maybe 20 seconds. I wasn't even planning on writing her a ticket to begin with if she was just polite about it. I handed the phone back to her and her jaw dropped. Now, I couldn't hear everything word for word, but I can tell that her husband was not happy. I asked if everything was okay, I wrote her the ticket, and my job was done. Guys, I can't believe she tried to get out of a ticket by saying, "Do you know who my husband is?" I love this person's comment right here. He says, "A captain? That's a laugh. Colonel is bare minimum to try to pull this stuff." We had an incident with a dirty line cutter at the commissary, an extremely crappy Karen, who also tried to pull the "Do you know who my husband is?" Her husband was an E7. At the back of the line was the garrison sergeant major's wife, patiently waiting in line, and she let Karen know who her husband was, and she asked for her husband's name. Ouch. Guys, if you want to pull rank, be prepared to be outranked and checkmated. Every year around this time, the church that my late mother attended chooses a few local families that are in need to sponsor and request donations for. The donators really go all out and provide everything from tree to full Christmas dinner to several gifts for each member of the family. It's a really charming and heartwarming experience to see people come together and take care of others like this. That being said, since my mother passed away, my wife and I have become silent partners with this program. And given that we're very comfortable financially, we take responsibility for an entire family and we cover all the expenses for everything. Anyway, we've done this for several years now, and every year we're given a family chosen by the minister's wife and an accompanying list of family members' wish lists. We tend to cover the entire list and make sure that we get even the brands they request for items and food. We then drop the items off at the church, and they take responsibility to deliver the items and wrap them for us. So last year, we were assigned a family, the same family we were given the last few years, and a list of rather pricey items that they'd like. Oh well, 'tis the season. We purchased everything on the list, but when we were getting ready to drop the things off, we were called and notified that the gentleman, the brother-in-law of the minister, who usually takes care of delivering the items, is very ill and unable to do it right now. And could we wait until he got better to drop them off? Now, this was 3 days until Christmas, and you know what? No problem. We decided to ask for the address of the family, and we would drop off the gifts ourselves. So, red flag number 1. The minister's wife was very reluctant to give us the address. Red flag number 2. The family lives in a very wealthy area of town. Now, I'm not saying that people can't be down on their luck in nice neighborhoods, but it still stuck out as odd. Red flag number 3. When we get to the home, the people that live there are not a family in need. They are the relatives of the minister. These complete entitled jerks were and have been scamming my wife and I to provide the minister's wife's own family with Christmas presents and food. They actually opened their garage for us to be able to put the gifts inside, and it was clear that they were scamming many people. The garage was full of gifts and clothes, and they even bragged that people really came through for them this year as opposed to last year. I exploded on them. I created the biggest scene in the neighborhood and made sure to tell every nosy neighbor exactly what these monsters were doing. I then took my food donations to the local mission and the gifts to Toys for Tots. After word got out, the minister's wife is apparently no longer working for the church in any capacity, and the minister is being replaced. Oh my goodness gracious, my friends. These people are absolute monsters. Taking advantage of good-hearted people around the Christmas season for their own gain is truly despicable. And with that said, my friends, we survived another one. Guys, if you enjoyed today's episode of r/Entitled People, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you missed the last episode, I will link it right here. It's a compilation of entitled people getting exactly what they deserve. Guys, check it out if you haven't because it's super satisfying, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.